Okay, we're just checking in, everybody. Hello, thank you for being here. Let's have a look. I got the wrong. Weird. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. seem to have a bit of a problem with the chat or something. I'm not sure what's going on here. It's kind of chaotic. Problem. Let me just check in with you. Let's see. I will check. Hold on. I want to make sure. Give me a second. Technical stuff. Greetings. This is Tarot Lumination. Good day. It is the 11th of November, Las Vegas, America. Looks to me like the chat is not working. I don't know why. As far as I know, settings in good condition. And the stream seems to be working. Ah, it is working. Oh, hello, Love Driver. Thank you for the... I needed that. Okay, let me get back to the Astrodoodle. Welcome, everybody. I want to finish the Astrodoodle for the day. Okay, so we're going to be over here for a moment. And I just need to collect the bits and pieces here. We have the moon is over here too. Okay. So I'm going to color it all in. You know I like to do that. You're going to see a lot of red. I'm just warning you now. Okay? Let's see. Well, I guess I'll just do the basic one. Let me just do the ones that are really obvious, okay? Venus and Mars in total opposition here. Not very nice for relationships, obviously. The moon is opposite Chiron. That's really not much fun either. And we have a tough square between Venus. Again, this is not fun at all. Okay? All that Capricorn energy, hard squaring with the sweet Venus in Libra. You know, that's a problem. Problems with relationships. Serious problems with relationships. Let me just, I'm going to add this other one here, because this is where I see the big problems. Let me just, it's very similar to how the things looked the other day. But, you know, the moon has changed a little bit. I just want to add the sweet stuff. At least we've got Scorpio energy and Pisces energy in harmony there. And I'm not going to put in the quincunxes and the yods and stuff for now. Just going to keep it really simple. Okay, let me go back over here and I'm going to adjust everything. Hello, screen is frozen. I hear you, but I don't see you. It's buffering a lot. Oh, that's a problem. Hold on. You don't see it? Oh dear. This is not good. It shows that we have good stream and audio over here. Let me just try something else. Let me just try something else here. Okay, so you should be able to see me and hear me. And I've double-checked some of the technical things over here, and it looks like everything is running okay. And there's obviously a problem. I can see there's a problem in the chat. But I don't know what it is. It's buffering a lot. I hear you, but I don't see you. Okay, so let me see. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, that part's good. I'm just double checking all the technology. I'm checking all the programs, the software, and the live streaming. Okay, give me a second. Over. Okay. Okay, this is not. You can't see it? Okay. Can everybody see the stage? Is the stage visible? The stage, as far as I can tell over here, the stage should be visible and the audio should be good and the stream is good. So it should be working. If it's not working, oh man, this is a real pain. Okay. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is. Oh, thank you. Hello, Yvonne. Hi. Hello, Miriam. Thanks. Okay, so you can see and you can hear. I mean, what is YouTube without being able to see it or hear it? Okay? Cheers. This is a little coffee break here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Love Triber. So let me go, first of all, okay, forget all the static and the bumpy start of the show. Okay, we're here. There's a few of us hanging out. We'll be here for a little while. I'm just going to do a short little video just to sort of clear the air a little bit. I would do this for myself anyway because I do homework every day to basically read charts and look at the astrological weather and so on, so that I can find the best way to navigate through my own personal day. And of course, the things that I look at are the planets, the movements of the planets. And those movements of the planets are the same for everybody. It's just, how does it affect you personally? And we could go into that perhaps another time, or maybe I'll go into something about it today. But anyway, thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Love Triber. Thank you, Miriam. And whoever else is there. Thank you. So if this is the first time to Tarot Illumination, hello, greetings, welcome. I've had the channel for, let's see, March 2017, 17, 18, 19, 20, like 3.5 years. It's still here, and it's still going, it's still puttering along, okay? And a lot has changed in that time. Some of us have got to know each other quite well. Some of you guys have been with the channel since the very beginning. It's been life-changing for me personally, and it seems to have, we've had parallel life-changing experiences for some of us as well. Some of you guys too. Let me go to the stage. I want to work on the astrodoodle for the day. Let's get this underway first of all. Okay, so this is, let's pretend this is for planet Earth, okay? This is basically the weather for everybody. Okay, 11th November 2020. So, the thing that jumps out at me most of all is in my own physical body, I'm feeling it very clearly that we're at the end of a lunar cycle. We've just gone through about 27 days since the last new moon in Libra. We had a full moon almost 2 weeks ago when the sun was in Scorpio and the moon was in Taurus. And now the moon has moved all the way through here, and the moon is in Libra right now, over here, and it's going to be in Scorpio on the 13th, in just basically a couple of days. So when you look at this chart, it's just a couple of days for the moon to move from here to here. On the other hand, these are not going to move. You won't see these moving. You won't see this one moving. You won't see this moving very much. You might see a little degree here or there, a little degree here and there, degree here and there. But in general, the big move you will notice is from the moon. That's what we feel most in our bodies. Again, it depends on your astrology, your body, your sensitivity, the way that you were raised in childhood, the culture in which you live, all those things. So I noticed I noticed all this kind of stuff when I was a little child. I was very interested in science and technology and art and music, all these kind of esoteric, magical things. I had little chemistry sets and science kits, and I loved to explore all the wonders of the universe, the things that I could not understand. I was lucky. I had a decent upbringing, and so I had things like shelter, water, food, communications, clothing, education, entertainment, travel. I was very much like a ninth house person over here. I was exposed to a lot of the world in a very big way, very, very quickly. And then things kind of shut down, and I've had to live in a very kind of narrow funnel ever since then. And all along the way, I started to notice more and more and more that the way my life unfolded seemed to have correlations to the movements of the planets. And so even when I was a young teenager, I was already looking at all this stuff, and I was looking at charts and trying to understand my friends and my family by learning about things like, ooh, what's your sun sign? Ooh, what's your moon sign? And things like that. And then I learned about the planetary cycles, and on and on and on and on. And I was always just an amateur enthusiast, and now here we are today, many years later. I'm still doing the same thing, and I'm just trying to share what I find with you guys, because what I've noticed over many years is that this astrological weather, I think of it as sacred geometry, the way it all works out. It might not look very harmonious, but in its own way, this is perfection. This is a perpetual changing environment here, and at this very moment in time, this is kind of what it looks like as a snapshot from the middle of the Earth, looking outwards across our solar system. So, I am living here on planet Earth, and I'm looking outwards to the solar system, and this is what I see, revolving around and round and round and round. And because the sun is actually the center of the solar system, we are not. So we see things from a sort of a skewed perspective, and that's how we perceive things like the retrograde planets, like Mercury retrograde recently, and Mars is still retrograde, and so on. And also Uranus and Neptune are still retrograde, because that's how it looks from here on Earth. Of course, they're not actually reversing. The planets don't just suddenly decide to go backwards. They're just whizzing around and round and round and round and round and round and round. But sometimes it looks like they're going backwards. Okay, so Mars is retrograde. Neptune is retrograde. And Uranus is still retrograde. Actually, yeah, that's it. So we've only got 3, because Mars is still retrograde, but it's going to go direct soon. And later in the month of November, we're just going to have Neptune and Uranus retrograde. Mars is going to start to move forward again. And so, what do I make of that? Well, first of all, let's get into this a little bit more. Some of you have might be curious about like global finance and global politics. I'm kind of like a neutral observer. Well, I'm an emotional observer. As you know, I wrote this thing years and years ago, and it's all coming into play right now today. And the basic concepts are now being displayed all over the world in terms of global behavior. It's global restructuring. It started in January 2020 officially. It was building up to that, starting in the year 2008 when Pluto hit Capricorn over here. The same time that we had the elections and Obama came into office in America. And here we are 8 years later. Pluto has already moved on to the 22 degree mark over here. and we still have a few more years to get over to here. We've talked about this on other shows. What's happening is that we're heading towards a very powerful new kind of vibration of Aquarian energy. I wonder if the yellow will show up here. Yeah, let's do that. So, I don't know, some of you, I know I'm already sensing this, because what's going to be happening over the next few months is that Saturn is going to move into Aquarius and Jupiter is going to move into Aquarius. And when we get into February 2021, which is going to be about here, okay, we're going to have the Sun in Aquarius and we're going to have a new moon in Aquarius. So what I'm trying to do kind of at this moment in time is brace myself for 2021. 2021 is going to be a radical year of upheaval and revolution, like a very, almost like unstable, highly unpredictable changes in global politics and global economics on a kind of on a monumental scale. And that's going to be roughly for very, very intense for 2021 and continued intensity over 2022 and into 2023 because eventually Jupiter will move from here to here to here to here over the next 3 or 4 years or so. Jupiter's going to go like this, okay? Here's Jupiter. It's going to go all the way like this. Saturn is going to go about 2.5 years to this, okay? And Pluto, moving very slowly, is just going to go from here to here. And so roughly 2024, Pluto will be here. And when Pluto enters Aquarius, we will have already been fully primed by Saturn and Jupiter, okay? And the real shakeup is going to happen with Pluto. And that's going to affect global politics and global finances on a massive scale. It's just going to be a complete, revamping about how the world works. Some of it is just magical and amazing, and some of it is also very disturbing. At least that's how it is from my perspective. And I am concerned. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be on the wrong side of this weather. Okay? I look at this as weather. So for today, right now, that was just the sort of introduction talk over here. I am already anticipating this. What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this shift into radical Aquarian energy compared to where we are right now, which is this really powerful Capricorn energy, which is dominating global astrology and personal astrology. This little sector here has been putting so much pressure on planet Earth, governments, banks, politicians, corporations, intense pressure, okay? And it also affects human beings because each one of us in Western astrology, we have a pie chart like this. And yours, of course, is very unique. Mine is unique. Yours is unique. But we all have a Capricorn section somewhere. We all have an Aries and a Libra and a Gemini section somewhere. We have a Scorpio section somewhere. But the way you might be affected, it depends on your own personal alignment of your own planets at birth, which is kind of like a birthmark, kind of like a DNA stamp, kind of like a marker of your identity. Yes, you're a human being, and you might have certain common characteristics, like you might be Caucasian or Arabic or Asian or African American, and that's, those are large so-called stereotypes, but each one of us goes down to the individual level, where this chart here, let's say this is the chart of a person. For example, if you were born today, right now, this is what your chart would look like. I don't know what your rising sign would be, so it could be like this, or 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 this. But if you were newly born today, this is what your birth chart would look like, at least for the planetary alignments. And so that lives with you for life, and you have to figure out, how do I deal with all of this? This is quite a stressful chart. So, for example, when I look at this as an impartial observer, And I'm trying to understand this as like a weather pattern. How am I going to navigate through the day? How am I going to live through all of this and get through till tomorrow and the day after? How am I going to prepare myself for the Scorpio new moon, which is coming at the end of the week? Things like that. That's kind of the stuff that goes through my brain. So right now, personally, let me just show you this. Over here, we had a Libra new moon over here almost 4 weeks ago. Since that time, the moon has gone all the way over here, went into Taurus, and then we had the full moon about 2 weeks ago. And now the moon is coming all the way back over to here. It's in Libra right now. And by the weekend, it'll be in Scorpio. And then that is when we're going to have the Scorpio new moon. So there's probably tons of astrology videos out there prepping you for the Scorpio new moon. You know, all of the personal astrologers and things like that. So that's coming this weekend. And then the week after is when you're going to start to feel the energy of the Scorpio new moon lifting things up. Now it's going to be intense because by nature the Scorpio energy is pretty intense. That's just how it is. My feeling is that we're going to see emphasis on, let's say, like deeply buried, hardly communicable, hardly understandable aspects of each of our natures is going to become exposed. You're going to find out how closely married and welded and bonded you are to certain significant other people, perhaps in very uncomfortable ways. For example, if you look at this here, Libra, this is the seventh house over here. This is the house of relationship. This is the house of self. So a dynamic like this, where the house of self is lit up and the house of others lit up. So this is as volatility in relationships, combative relationships, where Venus is in Libra in its home territory, wanting and desiring harmony, peace, balance, diplomacy, solutions so that things basically work smoothly. And that is being opposed by a completely different energy called Mars. Mars is the house of self. Me first. What do I have to do to survive today? What do I have to do to get on, to be alive, to overcome my challenges? Okay? And when you have Mars opposite Venus anywhere in a chart, okay, you're going to have, let's say, friction or hostility or combat or extreme let's say opposition, which leads to awareness in relationships. When you have an opposition like this, the energy of awareness becomes very profound, because this is the house of what they call open enemies. There's nowhere to hide. This is like having a mirror. Hold on, let me go over here a second. Okay, in the seventh house, if you think of the houses like arrangements, like a pizza, and then let's say I am now Mars in Aries. Okay, just to mention this. I mean, I'm really stretching the astrology in terms of how to illustrate things, but pretend I am Mars in Aries. Pretend I am Mars, okay? I am here to live my life. I know what is right for me. I know what I have to do, how to do it, when, where, and with who, and I just have to get on with it, do it. I have to get what I have to get. I have to do what I have to do. I have to be what I have to be. I am alive. I'm a living thing. I have a right to this, and I'm going to be that, and I'm going to do all that, okay? All right? And if anybody gets in the way, excuse me, okay? So I'm putting Mars in Aries right now. So that's a really powerful energy. And it's kind of got blinkers on like this, okay? And I mentioned the Mars in Aries energy is sitting there right now. And it's totally committed to its own survival, even if it means going to war, okay? So you have that energy. Okay, and as it spins around, okay, as you go through like this astrology chart, and it comes to this position, pretend I am Mars in Aries, and then Mars in Aries is now faced off exactly 100 degrees with Venus in Libra. Like, pretend I am now Venus in Libra. And I'm like, hello, how are you doing out there? Anything I can do to, like, what's your problem? What's going on there? I'm here to be somebody for you, okay? I love being here for you. And if there's any problems, let's sort it out. Let's see whatever's not working and let's sort it out, okay? Because I want things to be nice. I like beauty. I like comfort. I like happiness. I like harmony and balance. I am the harmonizer, okay? And then I'm Venus in Libra and I'm looking at you. My focus is now directly on you. And I'm seeing like, hello, Mars, excuse me, but, back down a little bit, okay? And so the Venus energy, it's in maximum polarity. And so when the two energies are facing off, there's really nowhere to hide. It's like the only vision that, I'm just focusing on Mars and Venus right now. It's just like the only perspective that Mars would have right now in terms of reflection from somewhere else comes from other people. The opposition, the 180-degree opposition. And so the Mars energy is absolutely intent on having its will enacted. And the Libra energy is almost exactly the opposite. It's like the Libra energy is almost like, how can I help you to enact your will? I'm your best mate. I'm your partner. I am built to be your partner. Okay? And because they want what's best, and what Venus wants what's best, Mars wants what's best. But as they observe each other in full hard opposition, anything that is out of alignment with each other's deep core awareness of what's good will be reflected back to the other. There's nowhere to hide. So that's why they call the 7th house the house of marriage, because that's the closest that people can get in terms of formalized bonding relationships. And if you make good decisions between the two parties in a marriage can be one of the best decisions you make in your life. If you, in your immaturity, or me in my immaturity, we make decisions based on, let's say, passion or lust or convenience or something, and it turns out that the marriage is not what was expected, then you will discover that pretty quickly. There's nowhere to hide. So the 7th house is the house of open enemies, because they're right there in front of you. You've chosen that. And it's also the house of marriage. They're right there in front of you. You've chosen that, but it's for the good of both sides. Okay, so that's the dynamic that's happening right now. In terms of global politics, it's very obvious what's going on. There's massive polarities between the people who believe that they are right and the other people who believe that they are right. Anyway, let me go back because that's happening in the background. I want to focus on the new moon coming, all right? So, this particular aspect here is, let's say, very uncomfortable. It's happening, mostly I'm seeing it happening on the global stage, especially in America with global politics, especially across the world with the New World Order trying to impose itself on other people. And, how's that working for you? So anyway, we're coming up to the Scorpio new moon at the end of the week and then into next week. So what's going to happen there is, what can happen is, at this very moment in time, we're dealing with these energies right now, okay? Here's another opposition over here, Moon opposite Chiron. Very sensitive, very uncomfortable energy. Venus in hard square with the Capricorn energy, Libra square Capricorn, very uncomfortable regarding relationships. stability, honesty, truth, integrity in relationships. And this one over here, Neptune in Pisces, hard square to the North Node in Gemini, I see this as fraud. Massive fraud, fakery, lies, deception, betrayal, deceit happening across the world in the way people are relating to each other. So, let's move on to the Scorpio new moon, which is heading our way. As the moon heads over here, it's going to highlight the depth of relationship. Okay? Relationship. It's going to highlight the depth of conflict. Betrayal and fraud. Everything that's wrong. And just imagine it. Okay, I don't know how old you are, or who you are, or where you are, whoever's watching, but let's just say you are a human being and you want to live, thrive, and survive, evolve, adapt, grow, and get on with your life. And you're doing what you think are the best decisions to do that. And so you start to form alliances, okay? Relationships with other people. And other people form alliances with you. Depending on your degree of growth and integrity, it could be positive, it could be challenging. For example, there's this fellow called Vitalik Buterin, and he is the inventor of the Ethereum coin in the cryptocurrencies world. He has an extreme chart, heavily Aquarian, and he has very, very tough angles like this, okay? But he is not a victim of that energy. He's making the best of it for the purpose of Earth, the goodness of Earth. So over here, we've just had a month of the Libra energy. We've already moved into the Scorpio energy. And what we are realizing, the way I look at it, is people are starting to wake up about how deeply they are in bed with these other people. Okay, so look at it this way. House of, say, dating and like flirting. Third house, what's that word? Very frivolous dating activity between co-workers and neighborhoods, just basically hooking up for the sake of it. Over here in the fifth house, true love, passion, romance, fertility, creative self-expression. That's the stuff people love and want. And over here, the serious house of marriage, okay? Hello, Kote, I see you. The house of marriage, the seventh house. But the eighth house is the house of deep soul merger. The house of what happens after you're married. For example, let's look at it this way. In the eighth house, some people call it the house of sex, death, and taxes. The house of deep soul merger. Okay? It's the house where you get to this really scary, profound thing that I can't function without you. You can't function without me if we want to survive, evolve, thrive, adapt, and become who we really are. You only kind of discover it when things become very highly pressured. For example, like I used to have a beautiful little succulent garden. I was ordered to take it away and give it away by the fire department. But there were periods of time where I lived where those little succulent plants were so starved. Didn't matter how much I watered them or anything. They were so starved that if I overwatered them, they would die. If you underwater them, they're sort of happy. But sometimes I took it too far. And somebody advised me, like, if you want them to blossom, and you want to like take cuttings and start new ones, you're going to have to starve them. Now, why is this relevant to this show or this story here? Because it's all about raw survival. Like when the plants are doing okay and they're comfortable and everything's sort of just nicely balanced, they propagate and reproduce in a kind of way that's comfortable and convenient. However, when things get very scary and you're at the point of death, and you as a spirit, as a plant, as a being, as an organism whose sole purpose in some ways biologically is to simply keep going, and the only way you realize you can do that is through reproduction, reproducing yourself and creating a legacy, planting new seeds, and hopefully passing that on. It requires deep, deep soul merger. Plants do it by blossoming. In other words, you can force the plants to blossom when they wouldn't normally blossom because they're desperate to stay alive. So they are going to force themselves to blossom and hopefully mate with each other and reproduce and start new plants. So it's the same with humans. When you take things down to the core, what can happen is people just give up. They say, screw it, I just need to reproduce. So things get a little bit chaotic because then you're kind of living at the raw animal level and you start to realize that, wow, the person I married or the person who married me or the marriage agreement is not what I thought it was. For example, let's say boy-girl stuff, handsome man and gorgeous woman, or let's say average man, average woman gets together. They decide they want to do something traditional called marriage, home, family, or whatever, and they start to share a bed together. And eventually they procreate and they mate, and it's an agreement. They put all their finances, everything they do is like a team in order to create a little environment so that they are like can create a future. So they're investing in their future through their children. And so that's what I'm trying to say with this. I'm trying to draw a parallel with these plants that have reached starvation level. I'm not saying you have to be starving as a human being to get married and reproduce. All I'm suggesting is you get to this point here and here where you realize, like, if I want to have that experience in life, then I have to commune with someone. Now, a lot of children and babies are born outside of wedlock, but some people do it in a sort of methodical way where they choose to marry and they choose to have kids, and they do that in a formal legal framework. Places like America and Western Europe, it's still quite popular. And Latin countries, marriage is still very popular. I think over here too. I don't know, it's different everywhere you go. But the thing is, what can happen is, no matter how well evolved you are as a person, if you're like in your 20s or 30s, and let's say you haven't learned a lot about yourself at the deep soul level, you could end up finding out that you've married someone, or you're in a marriage with someone who is revealing themselves to be somebody much bigger and different to what you ever pictured or imagined. And so what can happen is if you folks, if the married couple are like divergent, like, oh, I thought I married this person. Oh, I thought I married you. And like, well, wait a minute. You're not who you said you would be. You're not who you said you are. Like, I thought you were going to do the dishes. And I thought, I thought I was going to have the money and you're going to stay home and blah, blah, blah. All these conflicts that happen in marriage. And you start to get this situation where people are sharing a bed together and they realize, my God, what have I done? And they might be like, oh my God, what have I done? I've signed contracts with this person. I'm financially embedded with this person. I have biological output called babies and children from this person. And this person is nothing like or who I thought they were. And they feel the same about me. I need to get out. And so that's what happens with the intensity of the 8th house. It's the house of what happens after you've hooked up, got romantic and marriage and babies and money and everything, and you realize, oh my God, I am deeply in bed with this person. It's deep, deep soul merger. And in a healthy expression, the deep Scorpio energy of the 8th house would be a very profound, deeply moving thing at the depths of your heart and soul, where little differences and nuances that would normally freak you out in another person is like you take, I don't care if you're late for this and that. I still love you because you love me and you forgive me for all my faults. And yeah, I can be a dick sometimes. And they're saying like, well, yeah, you can be, but you still love each other because you know that you are flawed as a human being, but you've made a commitment based on something like bigger than you, this thing called love, okay? So when I look at the 8th house energy, I see a mishmash of a lot of very secretive energy that is never fully expressed or experienced until you've already reached this depth of soul merger between yourself and another, or between yourself and the community, yourself and the planet, yourself and the workplace, yourself and your child, yourself and your spouse, yourself and your parent, and yourself and your pets. And sometimes you don't know it until you're in there and you're so immersed, and it can be very, very moving. It can be a beautiful thing. It can be terrifying. And so what happens is, for a lot of people, when they get exposed to the energy of the 8th house, Scorpio, well, it might be different in your chart. For example, your 8th house might be ruled by, I don't know, Taurus or something, or Gemini. Either way, the 8th house energy is that kind of energy that I'm talking about. The energy of deep soul merger, where you realize that the whole of humanity is dependent on deep soul mergers, body, mind, heart, and soul, completely dissolving into another person, which happens through, physical union, human reproduction. Sometimes human reproduction is a really disgusting, vile expression of behavior. Those are the, I have to be very careful with language on this show, so I'm going to be kind of mute about that. But it can also be a very beautiful thing. Some people are dedicated to loving each other to the point where they have children, and they're more interested in their children and their partner's welfare than their own particular agenda. A lot of people don't know any of these things until they've actually had the experience. Some people already know, but either way, the 8th house energy is very intense, and if you're prepared for it, it can be a very satisfying, deeply rewarding part or chapter of your life. If you're not prepared for it, you can really come unglued, because it goes to the very pit of your soul. Like what happens when you discover your spouse has been cheating with someone, had another baby somewhere else, and you've already made huge legal, financial, romantic, emotional, physical commitments with this other person, and then the whole depth of your foundation is demolished, or potentially demolished. It's so shocking. A lot of people live in denial because they can't handle the idea that their three-dimensional reality is completely blown. It's completely compromised. And so you have fake relationships where this person behaves in fake behavior towards another. They basically start to defraud each other in relationship rather than face the reality of the parts of themselves that they didn't know, that was unevolved. Thing is, a lot of time you don't know until you hit the 8th house chapter in your life. Let me go over here. Hello, Jeffrey. I'm going to go over to the stage a second. Okay. So, the energy of relationships is really, let's say, volatile right now. You might be seeing it. I'm seeing it especially in global politics, where it's very heavily polarized. I am right. I am the one who's the leader. Let's say the presidents, okay, in America. There's the Biden guy who says, basically, I am the president. And there's the other fellow saying, hold on a minute. And they are both absolutely convinced in their own righteous right to be who they are. It's all happening in the background of very, very fraudulent communications, okay? And it's happening in a background of very, very screwed up, very unresolved, immature relationship behavior. The reality check police over here in Capricorn is basically holding everyone and everything accountable. This is stressful. This is stressful. This is stressful. I should also add this one in, really, because this is going to become very stressful soon. Okay? So, later in the month, we're going to get this. It's going to be super hyper stressful. You put this on top of this, that's a lot of pain, and it's showing on the global theater. Just it's plain and it's in our faces. It's all over the world news. You can't hide from it. I hardly watch the news. I get little segments and fragments. My loved ones, my friends, they tell me very important things they know that I'm tuned into, but I don't watch them. I do my own homework, I do my own research, and I come to my own decisions and my own. I would recommend that for everybody. So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking that starting next week, what I'm sensing is going to happen is a lot of increased hostility and face-offs, okay, between anything from a local, somebody who's really pissed off with global politics at their grocery store, and they just go completely ballistic at someone else who's wearing a Trump hat, or someone who's wearing a Biden that's assaulted by someone wearing a Trump hat, and so on and so on. And they just can't help themselves because everything is so polarized, and they're taking it out. They're blaming everything. Like everything that's wrong in your life, you can blame it on Donald Trump. Or if you're the other side around, like everything that's wrong in your life, you can blame Biden and the Democrats. So, how's that going to help anybody? You have to figure out your own stuff for yourself. Where do you stand? If you want to outsource your belief system to someone and something else, fine. I like to have my own. Anyway, with the Scorpio new moon energy coming for the next month, I see things getting really intense, okay, as the ugly things become more and more exposed. And the more and more that the ugly things that are going on, the more they become exposed, the more ugliness we're going to have in human behavior. You could see that as like mudslinging in the news, global politics, global threats, like China could be saying, you know what? Prepare for war, America. We're coming to get you. Nothing is going to stop. Okay? And then America is saying, well, like, for example, in America, as you might have known, this fellow who is our president, he is very anti-China. Even though he's a politician, he knows they have to work together. When he puts on his theater, his show, he has to say, I am anti-China, so we're going to try and stop it. So there's this like thing between China and America. Okay? Shot of what America has. There are a lot of people in America who want what China has. The oligarchs over here, the corporatocracy, the Federal Reserve, and a lot of people are heavily, let's say, interested in like a one world order where, God, I don't want to get into this. I'm slipping into a black hole here. I didn't want to do any of this politics stuff. But anyway, we're going to see it, I think, very vividly on the global stage as the American elections play out over the next few months. We've got 2 months until we get into this massive shift of energy to the Aquarius vibes, okay? Where it's going to be a very big upsurge in energy about we the people. My personal feeling is that we the people, just your common general person around the place who wants their sense of identity, integrity, privacy, their rights to freedom of speech, their rights to rule of law, their right to silence, their right to protect and defend themselves against tyranny. All those people, and there are hundreds of millions of them in America, they're going to start to say, you know what? Enough is enough. Enough is enough. And we're not kidding around anymore. There's a lot of energy building up for revolution. Okay? Aquarius, it's the sign of revolution. Ruled by Uranus, the sign of miraculous, unpredictable, shocking, amazing, miraculous, wondrous type revolutions. America is born with that in the chart. So it's going to be really amplified. I'm kind of projecting a few months now, but starting here with the Scorpio new moon, things are going to intensify. And I think some of the big themes are going to come up. Fraud. Fraud, fraud, fraud. I'm talking about fraud, about how the United States Federal Reserve has created the most incredibly effective, powerful business model, which is it's a Ponzi scheme that they started in 1913, and it is now bigger and more powerful than ever before. and they want to take it to the next level. The way they are doing that is by creating these alliances, these global alliances with things like the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, Rockefeller Foundation, the Gates Foundation, and on and on and on. These are like the elites. They work very, very closely with the corporate elites. Like the big techs, all of those things. What they're trying to do is take a power structure that's already very uneven, unbalanced, and they're going to try and take it like this, where they're going to try and create one world order. And the only way they can do that is by committing even more egregious fraud on we the people. And we the people isn't just the United States anymore. A lot of people in the last 200 years or so are starting to realize that this thing that we have in America called our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence is actually kind of a neat thing to have. But the problem is what we have in America is that our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence it's really inconvenient for the globalists. It's very inconvenient for monopolists. It's very inconvenient for the Federal Reserve and the federal government, because what they want is complete, utter command and control, communist style, like they have in the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. As you know, in America, there are a lot of people who are trying to stop and ban guns, because if you can strip gun ownership out of the American Constitution, then the leaders can turn into China, and we become China-America, where we have no power or ability to protect and defend ourselves against the tyranny. They have no way to defend themselves from the CCP. Okay, the CCP has a multi-million man army that does exactly what the boss tells them to do: slaughter, kill, whatever. It's a highly abusive environment. From my perspective, is a massive prison. I see it as a massive prison filled up with a lot of prison cells. It's like a slave, okay? We have a relationship with China. It's very profound. China has a relationship with us. It's very profound. It's like a very sick marriage, okay? We're going to start to see more and more how distorted and sick this marriage is. We have all the wonders and benefits of the marriage, but now we're going to have to deal with all the side effects and the things that have been ignored and set aside in terms of the sickness and the darker aspects of the relationship between the United States. And that's going to affect the whole world. We're heading towards what is effectively going to be a currency war. Relationships, okay? Think of it as a relationship. A and B, like we said earlier, like Mars and Venus. It's just going to intensify. Let me go over here. Hello, Stacy. Hi, Nikki. Let me go over here a minute. All right, so I just wanted to clear this. What I'm doing right now is actually I'm just trying to educate myself here. I'm just sharing it live as we do this. Typically for myself personally, I'm very sensitive to the lunar patterns, the lunar placements and the positions. And typically 2 days, maybe even 3 days before the new moon, as the moon ends its lunar cycle, I tend to get very muted, quiet, kind of sad, depressed, and ineffective, and I just want to curl up in a ball and hide away from the world. And then when I hit the new moon again, which is going to be effectively, it'll start, the energy will picking up. It's like surfing. The waves and the energy will pick up again, and I will become more, let's say, animated as I tune into the Scorpio new moon energy, and I try to make the best of it over the 28-day cycle. It will reach a culmination over here, and then of course we're going to hit the eclipse. There's an eclipse coming soon where the sun is going to, let's see, hold on. It's going to be a Gemini Sagittarius eclipse, okay? So we have to watch out for that, because that eclipse is going to hit right here on the nodal axis, okay? That's going to affect the Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is born with a Gemini North node, okay? So There's so many freakish things happening in the global economy right now that I think of as like divinely ordained. The sacred geometry is so bizarre, so extreme. We haven't seen anything like this in thousands of years. Actually, it's quite unique. And the nearest thing we had to it was 1776 and 1787, when the sun was over here and Pluto was over here in Aquarius, and they had the Constitution. So we're looking at a Pluto return, okay? So I've just been talking most of this video about a lunar return, going from here to here. It takes about 28 days to go from here to here. For Pluto to do its journey, it takes about 250 years to go from here to here. Now, it just so happens the United States was born with Pluto right here. So we are heading into our Pluto return. If you've watched some of my other videos, the way I'm describing it is that we're heading into the birth canal right now as we head to the rebirth of America in some weird, wonderful new way than ever before. It's very intense. It's very, very painful. The United States in particular is affected by these cycles. China is also in a secondary way, but on a global scale, the United States is profoundly impacted by this geometry, and you're going to see that starting to play out starting with this election right now, and then heading over the next 2 months, all those issues and stories going on about fraud, and then eventually they'll make a decision about who the new president is, and that'll take us into 2021, and then things are going to go berserk. Absolutely berserk crazy over here with all this Aquarius energy, especially in February when we get the Aquarius new moon. So I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of a, advance notice. I'm starting to prepare now. I'm starting to anticipate. So, for example, I would look in my own chart. Where does all this lie right now today? And what's it going to look like in February 2021? I am doing my homework already. I'm trying to share my homework here with you guys. Okay? So, hold on. I need to... Oh, this is cold. Anyway. So, I made a few notes over here. Now, I made a little sketch here, okay? We've got the new moon coming very, very soon. It's going to be in Scorpio. So a part of me is kind of looking forward to it in a very, let's say, sensitive way, because it's a new moon. So I'm going to ride that wave. I'm going to find a way to take advantage of it, even though I know we're living under this very intense pressure here. I'm not going to let this stuff stop me. I'm not going to let this thing or this thing or this thing stop me. Okay? Personally, for me, it's the end of a lunar cycle, so I'm feeling a little bit like this. That's normal for me. The next thing I wanted to point out, I can't not see it. It's impossible not to see it. It's all over the global news. I'm getting like secondary little snippets and headlines. And this thing here, election fraud in the USA, okay, I see this as very obviously connected to this aspect over here. It's going to be with us for a while. So the whole subject of fraud in the American economy, the American politics, the American election is going to be exposed. Now, when I say economy, it's this same aspect here represents fraud in any and every aspect. Okay? So I see that including the fraud of the global financial system, which is kind of why I wrote that book here. I've told you about this many times. I wrote this book as trying to warn people, please be ready for global restructuring starting January 2020, because it's going to be irreversible. It's going to be profound on a historic scale for humanity. Okay? Just the way that what happened like when the internet began, or when you had the Stone Age and they did everything with flint and rocks and stone and bits of wood. and they invented, like, spears and whatever. And then they had these monumental periods when they had the Bronze Age. They discovered metal. And then they had the Iron Age, and iron was much stronger than bronze and tin and copper and brass. And then they went on to the steel, and then they went on to the, kept going, eventually to the industrial age, and then massive global population expansion as we learned and grew from each other. And we've had massive global population booms that is almost to the point where it's unsustainable right now. And so what's happening is I look at the earth, these folks over here, the shadow side of this energy over here is the big corporations, the big corporate banks, the big governments, the central banks all over the world. They are terrified that they're going to lose their power, that they're losing their power. They know that they are at risk of losing their power. How do they know that? It's because some smart people have designed this stuff called cryptocurrency, which allows we the people, to try and reclaim our independence, our privacy, our rights, our freedoms, And those, to me personally, are more important than money. For these folks here, money and power is more important to them than your rights, So this is, to me, it looks like a setup for war. It looks like a setup for revolution, especially in the United States and between other countries. I see a lot of that warfare going to be committed in the sectors. Currency wars between one country as another, as each country tries to assert dominance and try to maintain its existing structures at the same time that its existing structures are collapsing. So I just wanted to mention. And so we kind of get onto the subject. A lot of people have been talking about this, like the scamdemic. I'm going to add that over here. Scamdemic. And the plandemic. Some of you are aware that, some of you, like myself, I believe that there's a lot of scamming and fraud going on with this virus, and I think it's heavily planned by the globalists, the people that I just talked about. The globalists are here. I mentioned them earlier. The International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements, that's the bank for bankers, This is the central bank for all central banks. This is the World Bank. I actually put another one in here. ECB. So these are the globalist folks, And they are very disturbed that their status and control and power is coming unglued right now. So they are doing everything they can to basically create a new world order where they control everything. They already do to some extent, but it's very fractured. What they're trying to do is condense and consolidate their power into a massive, like, technocratic corporatocracy that's owned and operated effectively by the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, the European Economic Community, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, Agenda 2030, GOOGLE, and FACEBOOK, and TWITTER, these folks who have a massive monopoly on heavily perverted, fraudulent, and abused use of media. So, I'm functioning on this thing right now, and I'm trying to say things in such a way that I don't get, shoved off this thing. So I'm very grateful. In many ways, these folks have amazingly good ideas, but the problem is that I have with these folks is that they're essentially, to me personally, it feels like they're trying to turn the world into a massive communist, totalitarian, tyrannical system of control. I don't like that. There's the the GATES Foundation and the ROCK, Feller Person Foundation, those kind of groups, they are all essentially assembled in one thing to try and create a new world order. All those folks are in bed with each other over here, and it should become more and more prominent, more and more obvious to the rest of the world as this kind of information becomes more apparent across the world. A lot of people don't even think about this stuff. They don't care about it. All they care about is like, am I going to get laid today? Am I going to have dinner tonight? Am I going to have enough food on my table for tomorrow? Why can't I go out and party? Or I want a new car, or whatever it is. Okay, that's fine. You've got to live your life. Make sure that you're alive. And so a lot of this stuff just is irrelevant to people. They don't even pay attention to it. Hello, Pa. So this is happening right now. They've been working on this for a long time. And in order to foster and accelerate and implement their new world order, guess what's involved? The scamdemic, the plandemic. Because in order to implement this world order, these folks have to find a way to put the global population into total, utter submission in order for them to impose their agenda. Because the agenda that they're trying to impose is basically like a prison. It's basically like what they do in China. I don't want to live like that. There are a lot of Chinese people who don't want to live like that anymore. China is very excited about all this. Because if this happens, then it means America is going to turn into China-America, and America will basically turn into a slave camp, just like China. So I'm not interested in any of this. They're very big. They're very, very powerful. Now, this thing is very old. It's basically the same thing that they did in the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, the Austrian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, Spanish or French, and the British Empire. The British Empire were very, very good at this stuff, okay? And then in a way, America started doing this. We started to impose a lot of our belief systems and agendas across the world. We do it in a way that is done so-called through free market capitalism, but it is still a form of hegemony where we are trying to impose our agenda. China is working very hard to do their own hegemonic control of the world right now, and that's going to happen in the currency wars, okay? Right now, China and America are starting to build up for a massive currency war, which is going to play out over the next, I would say, 24 years, okay? That's what I'm predicting. It's going to happen mostly during the Pluto and Aquarius transition over here, which is going to be about 20 years, okay? So I'm preparing now. Personally, this is not going away. What they're going to do, like in the United States, for example, and in Europe, okay, over here, and a lot of little countries around the world, over here, they're starting to implement their plans by creating the CBDCs. We've talked about that on other videos. The central bank digital currencies, okay? These are in formation right now. They're basically poised and ready to go. A lot of the countries are going to be launching in 2021. It's a very revolutionary concept to have a central bank digital currency. What's the problem with this? It sounds very beautiful because it's going to be like everyone's going to get their own government debit card with money. And everything will go through that, that sounds wonderful, especially for middle class and working people and poor and the destitute. It's going to be like a miracle comes from heaven. It's like bait. But once you sign on to this, and we're all going to be subject to this, guess what happens? There's no more privacy. Okay, it's all gone. They can track anything and everything that you do in your life, in your world, through this thing. And of course, the other thing that they're trying to do with the scamdemic and the plandemic is to sync that up over here with implants, okay? So that's where you get things like the Rockefeller folks and the Gates folks and all the big pharmacies, all tied in together in here to create a new world order. And they do it by stripping away your power, your rights, okay? What these folks are starting to realize over here is that they created, over the last 140 years, especially the American Federal Reserve banking system, they realized we have created the most incredibly effective and powerful Ponzi scheme that works for us, okay? That's the U.S. Federal Reserve. I should put that on there. U.S. Fed, okay? So, the United States Federal Reserve is preparing right now to issue the CBDC. So can you imagine that? The United States Federal Reserve Bank is now going to be connected to every single American, okay, over here. It's like what they do in China, what they're trying to do in China already. And what's going to happen is if you do not behave, and it will show up very accurately on your CBDC card. If you do not behave according to the way they want you to work, in other words, they want you to operate like a debt cow, they want you to keep living like a debt cow, and they want to put the debt cows onto a Chinese-style slave camp. So you have a debt cows living on a slave camp. So it's tyranny and oppression amplified more than ever before. China is the perfect example of mass tyranny, mass oppression. They've done it very, very well. And America's leaders, some of them want to do that because they're seeing how they can profit from creating a totalitarian, tyrannical corporatocracy with all these folks here and all the big pharmas, okay? Personally, this stuff here in this little box, I'll just put this in a box. This stuff in this box here, it terrifies me. It should terrify you. If you're not scared of this, if you're not aware of this, then you need to become aware of this because it's happening. It's not going to go away. So how are we going to get around this? Well, we're going to live in a parallel world. How is that parallel world going to happen? Well, the people I hang out with in my personal life, we're already trying to figure it out. And the options are very, very simple and very, very old-fashioned. The things that you focus on are your loved ones, friends and family, okay, land, hard assets, honest money, and basically minding your own business, community, okay, of like-minded people. So these things are going to be happening simultaneously. It's already happening. There's plenty of people who are already planning for this stuff. Let me see if I can squash that over here. So this is what's happening when we get into the Aquarian agenda starting in 2021. This energy is going to expand dramatically, okay? Radical upheavals in society in a way that works for the globalists, the New World Order. And it's going to be beautifully packaged. They're going to tell you how you're going to get, clean energy, plant-based food, climate control, efficiency, gender fairness, gender equality, political fairness, and social justice, okay? And they have complete command and control of all of that stuff. And all you have to do is obey, okay? All you have to do is submit and obey. You have to submit and you have to obey. If you refuse to submit, if you refuse to obey, they will treat you just the way they treat people in China. Okay? If they don't like you, they just basically crush you. And they don't have to do it through the courts or anything. They do it through tyrannical, totalitarian control systems. Okay? There's a very, very dark, ugly side to this agenda. I see it that way. I know most of my friends and family see that, and that's their perception, that's their belief, and I see evidence of all of it. I see very hard evidence of all of this happening. In contrast, this is what I'm interested in. I'd like to be with a community of like-minded people. I'd like to work in a world of honest money, where my money is real. It's not fake money. It's not currency. It's not little tokens. It's not debt. I'm talking about honest money. And the nearest things that are happening to the world of honest money right now are Bitcoin and a few other cryptocurrencies, gold and silver, okay, and other hard commodities that are treated as genuine money, and other hard assets, especially land and property. Those are the things that are going to be important. Honest money and friends and family and loved ones, and creating, like I would say, like-minded communities. So I'm already in conversation with people who feel the same way that I do, because we're looking to be connected with this in the least way possible that still makes us legal, so that we do not get shoved away or disappeared. This is not going away. It's being resisted by this. One of the most powerful, obvious examples of the counter energy to this energy is the world of cryptocurrencies, okay? So you might, if you don't know about cryptocurrencies, you're going to start hearing it more and more, because cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, not so much today, but its original intention was to create a world of honest money that works counter to the world of fake money, okay? All of this stuff up here is fake money. It's not fake money, it's just currency, it's just tokens. And it's an incredibly elaborate and very, very successful system for the people at the top, okay? What they have basically created on a global scale is a massive debt farm and a massive slave camp. And every country operates in some version of a debt farm combined with a slave camp. And there's enough people across planet Earth right now who are getting sick of it. They want to go back to something very simple and pure, the world of honest money, okay? The reason that the subject of money is so important here is because vast amounts of our lives are measured in and through and around money. Like the second you walk outside your door to do something, you're in America, you're burning gasoline, you've got a car payment, you've got a college loan to pay off, mortgages, credit cards, debit cards, healthcare programs, things that a lot of them are built on debt, okay? A lot of people are sick of it because in America, they're starting to realize that I've been working harder and harder for less and less, and the value of my so-called money has become worthless. We've already talked about this in other videos, okay? So I'm not going to go on too much about it here. But in a world of honest money, you retain value, okay? You end up in a deflationary kind of environment where you build things of value, okay? And you invest in the community, and you make sure that you maintain a community with honest systems. And of course, the lure of power and growth is irresistible. So eventually, like what happened in the British Empire and what's happening in the American Empire, is that the bankers especially figured out how to take advantage of we the people, basically the dumb people, the dumb money, the sheeple. We can farm them once we realized how to do it through the financial system. So they started effectively and most powerfully in 1913 when they formed the United States Federal Reserve Bank. It's not a federal bank, it's a private corporation, and the only thing that they care about is profiting themselves, okay? It's a very tiny number of people, and they work deeply in collusion with all the other central banks across the world. They're all playing the same game. They're basically trying to consolidate all their wealth and power into one new world order. And because they're already so smart and so wealthy, they think they're better than us, the dumb people, the sheeple. Well, That's why in America we had this thing called the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Because, yeah, maybe we are poor. Maybe we don't have the education. Maybe we don't have the access to these incredibly powerful institutions because we were not born into it. Or we didn't seek it. Maybe you're not someone who seeks massive power and control over other people. I just want my own life. I want to have a chance to have power and control over my life. I'm not interested personally in trying to completely dominate and control and own the world the way these folks are doing. They're doing it for their own benefit. They actually think they know what's best for you, okay? I like to make my own decisions. I like my freedom. I like my privacy. I like to be able to say what I say, how I say it. I'm trying to be diplomatic, but truth to me is very, very important. Honesty is very important. A lot of stuff that goes on here is an extremely elaborate and very well crafted fraud against you, the people. We could talk about this for hours. I'm just trying to get across my main themes here. There's the sparkly side to everything that's happening, and then there's the shadow side to everything that's happening. The people who are aware of what we're talking about are, and if you don't like this stuff, like for example, if you are really into this whole idea of a one world order, a new world order, where we live under a command and control totalitarianism by these folks over here, the politicians, then the bankers, fine. Help yourself. It's there. It's going to be fully available to you. You won't be able to escape it. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, this stuff here, this globalist agenda, is fundamentally evil at its core. I don't like it. It's going to be there. We have to find a way to live with it and around it and through it. It's going to be there. It's like, it is what it is. So my energy is focused on this because this is what really, really counts to me. Honesty, truth, community, friends and family, land, hard assets, honest money. I don't like knowing that every time you go to work, the value of your work decreases and decreases and decreases while the bankers are basically milking you, the debt cow. Have you noticed, especially if you're working class or middle class or poor in the United States, you have become poorer and poorer and poorer. And who's becoming richer? Okay, so let me go over here. Give me a second. So really, like what I'm doing right now is just sharing my perspectives. I'm trying to align myself. What do they call it? Self-talk. To get myself in the frame of mind where I need to be in order to move forward with peace, harmony, so I can be loving, be loved. Even though there are these things that are going around on here on the global restructuring, the flip side of it, the shadow side of it is, to me, it's like a demonic agenda. I don't like it. But it's all dressed up as something amazing for you. Okay? I'm just letting you know my personal opinions, okay? I don't want to be, let's say, oblivious to all of this stuff. I'd like to have some sense of dominion, some sense of sovereign self. I don't think one world order is a very healthy concept. I like the idea of individualism, the right to privacy. A lot of things that we established and basically laid down as law here in America. And a lot of the things that we have in America today, we're very, very lucky to have them. But when you drill down to the core, our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence has been so corrupted and so corroded, undermined for the benefit of the so-called elites, that it's like you don't have what we built. It's almost destroyed. So what I see is happening in the next few months and into 2021, we're going to go through these like birthing pains, going through the birth canal, and eventually the actual rebirth will happen towards the end of 2023, when it's going to be, the pressure is going to be so intense because Pluto is going to be at 27 degrees Capricorn. I am marking my calendars already for the end of 2023. It's going to be a significant thing, just like 2020 is a significant year. And then when we head into 2024, everything's going to change again. That's when Pluto enters Aquarius, okay? So the Aquarian themes are going to become bigger and bigger and bigger, starting in 2021. We're building up to it right now. I can already feel it, and it's only a couple months away. The themes that I'm talking about mostly revolve around Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. We're going to feel it very strongly in February 2021 because of the Aquarian Sun and the Aquarian Moon in particular. It's going to be a massive Aquarian stellium around that time. And the subject matters that we're talking about here today on this show are going to be right in your face. They're going to be right there. I would say the energy of revolution, the energy of people rising up and becoming much more acutely aware of the fraud that has been perpetrated. And what are we going to do now? What are we, the sheeple, we the dumb money, we the little people, we the middle class, the working class, the poor, what are we going to do? Some people are going to find out too little too late, and they will basically be sucked up in the vacuum cleaner through a big hose, and they're going to end up as another debt cow on a slave camp for the rest of their life, and they're going to be programmed and conditioned for that, and they'll never know. I'm too old not to know, and so I feel I have to share this stuff, so I share this with our little community here and my loved ones, my friends and family, as much as I can. But it feels to me sometimes like it's a very lonely, isolated world because, you know, most people don't deal with this stuff. I can only talk about this stuff on this channel or with my loved ones, my friends who are on the same wavelength as me. And it's a very tiny number of people. So does that mean I'm wrong? Does it mean that I should be in with the masses just because that's the way the masses are going? I don't think so. Not for me personally. What's that? Hello. Sorry, I haven't been paying much attention to the chat. I've just been having my Wednesday rant thing here. I'm going to call it quits now because I need a kind of a mellow day here. I'll see you guys on Sunday. If anybody has any issues where they want to go into this stuff in depth, I have a lot of resources here that deals with this stuff. And I can perhaps give you some perspectives or feedback. You can book things. I'll show you over here. Okay, have a look at this. So some people, if you want to just make donations, you just go to tarotlumination.com and there's a donate page. Also, you will see there on the screen at the top, there's another place called readings. You can book a personal consultation there. Okay, things like that. It also helps if you want to get signed up with the newsletter. Okay, you can do that too. It's all at tarotlumination.com. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. It might have sounded a bit jumbled, and I'd say it was, but be prepared. There's going to be a lot of radical shifts happening. Oh, you know what? Here's something else I wanted to share with you. Just give me a couple minutes. I forgot. Damn. Hold on. See this old book here? I found this at a thrift store. It's called The Last 2 Million Years. one of those big fat coffee table books, and I've been reading it page by page, and it's been very soothing for me to see this, as the backdrop to some of the things that I've been talking about here. When you start to look at things over very extended cycles of time, then you realize, we are an evolving species. Here's the times when man began. We were literally just scrabbling around in the dirt. Okay, it moves very quickly. Everything was very primitive. You were lucky to reach 30 years old because you would either die from disease or starvation or fighting or injuries or something. Toothache. Tooth decay can turn into a life-threatening disease. They used flint, okay? And eventually people started to migrate across the world in all sorts of different directions. And they became more technologically advanced. And we have these historical chapters, like they call it the Stone Age. And then, let me see if I can find the other bits here. Stone Age, Stone Age, Stone Age. A lot of stuff here on Stone Age. These are the hunter-gatherers. Of course, there were very small numbers of people on Earth at that time, so there was no shortage of land. Even on the rich, fertile places of land, there was usually enough people to figure things out. So land wars were not that common. Then eventually the dawn of farming, the dawn of agriculture, the whole idea of keeping they had things like cows, animals like that, cows, sheep, goats, wildfowl birds, and fishing, of course. And they realized, if we keep them in clusters, we can manage them more easily. It's the same thing with farming. So they started to do farming, agricultural, and for animals too. So that grew and that grew. And then the more healthy and more successful humanity became, the more they had to start looking for new lands and migrating and moving around. Okay, and they started to do, primitive artwork. They'd been doing that for a long time already. And then we come up to metals. It's amazing when they discovered copper and tin. It changed everything all across the world. I mean, there was only a few million people in humanity at that time. And then the art of metalworking went around. They realized, my gosh, we can do all these amazing things with metals, making beautiful artifacts, but they also make amazing weapons, okay? So there's the shadow side and the bright side of all these amazing things, okay? And eventually they come on to the Iron Age, and humanity is becoming smarter and harder, and they're becoming more and more violent as they try to impose power over other populations. And so war became a really big deal, where you had communities gathering together to try and take over another population, mostly because somebody wanted someone else's land for all the resources, like the trees, the water, the animals, things like that, and to impose power. Okay? And then eventually, well, we're not there yet, but the Iron Age, and when iron was discovered, again, humanity became more powerful. And then let's go fast forward to where we are today. They discovered the Industrial Age around the 1850s, and then they had things like the steam train, and then the discovery of oil. The discovery of oil changed everything. We have what's called an oil-based economy in this country now, in fact, across the whole world. I think we burn about 80 million barrels of oil a day across the world. That's a lot of smoke and fire. Then, after the Industrial Age, we came into the age of science and technology, with things like automobiles, airplanes, eventually nuclear power and computers and televisions and radios and internet and space travel, electricity, vast advances in science and technology. And what I think is happening right now in 2021, we're starting to see a new age, a completely new age. They're going to call it a new world order. But what I think is going to happen, sort of like the way the internet changed everything across the world, what's happening now, I believe that cryptocurrencies are going to be life-changing for the world. Remember, there was life before the internet and life after the internet? It's the same thing. Life before smartphones, life after smartphones. Life before electricity, life after electricity. This new thing called cryptocurrencies, which allows humanity to have access to something called honest money, is a new invention. It's almost like having gold. It's not proven yet. It's still highly unstable, and a lot of countries don't really know what to do or how to do it. Certain countries are so unstable that they are already starting to turn their whole economies into Bitcoin-based currencies, especially over here, Venezuela, Turkey, is it Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and a few other places, because they're realizing that's the only way they can manage going forward, because their own native currencies are worthless. They're powerless. They have nothing. They've been so defiled and destroyed. So anyway, that's the last little bit I wanted to add on. We're looking at historical changes. We are alive living through this. They're going to call it the New World Order. To me, that's some kind of like totalitarian, tyrannical fraud. I am going to be focusing on something much simpler, perhaps smaller, more modest, but at least it will be honest. Okay? Honest and true, genuine, where I have a chance to retain my power and my rights, freedom of speech, the right to defend and protect myself in some way, shape, or another. And I don't want to get sucked into that other thing. I've already lived in a lot of different places, cities. I've already lived in nature. I've been homeless. I've lived in a mansion. I've lived in, I had my own little businesses. I've had a sort of a very mixed up kind of life. So I know a lot about what doesn't work, and I'm learning more and more about what does work. Anything that I'm learning about that does work, I'm trying to share with you guys. Okay? So anyway, thank you very much. Thank you all for listening. It's been a pleasure. This is Terra Illumination signing off. And you guys go and have a super, super day. Okay? And we'll see you again soon. All right?